Okay, this week's challenge is about the resurrection, and here's what the challenge author writes. The Bible suggests that Jesus rose from the dead and made appearances to hundreds of people before ascending into heaven. It is unlikely that this would have escaped the notice of Herod and Pilate and the vast majority of the Roman occupiers, not to mention the Jews who would have either directly witnessed this amazing phenomenon or heard about it from credible sources. This would have provided proof that Jesus was a divine being, prompting Herod and Pilate to convert, along with the Romans and with the Jews, with Christianity then becoming the official religion of Judea. Obviously, this did not happen, and the fact that it didn't suggests strongly that Jesus did not rise from the dead. Now, I actually agree with this particular challenge that, yeah, it would be true if the resurrection did happen, that you would expect people like Jews to convert to Christianity. You'd expect hundreds of people to convert to Christianity after witnessing an amazing, miraculous resurrection. You'd even expect skeptics who were going in this direction to do an about-face 180-degree turn and become followers of Jesus. You would expect people who persecuted Christianity to also become believers. And you'd expect eventually that lots and lots of people in the entire nation would eventually rise up, become Christians, and that Christianity would become some sort of a noteworthy religion within that country. Well, guess what? That's exactly what happened, right? If you look at the record, that's exactly what happened after the resurrection. Jesus appeared to his disciples and to over 500 people, and these people became believers in the resurrection and in Jesus Christ. In fact, these were people who were depressed and dejected and scattered and were doubtful about what they had come to know about Jesus. But then after the resurrection, they became passionate followers of Jesus Christ, even to the point of persecution and death. In fact, even James, the brother of Jesus, was a skeptic after Jesus' death. Okay? But he later came to believe that Jesus was actually the divine Son of God who rose from the dead. What caused him to turn around? Paul, the person who persecuted the church, who imprisoned Christians, who killed Christians, eventually does a 180 and becomes a passionate follower of Jesus and a believer in the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Eventually, lots more people become followers of Jesus Christ, eventually to the point where Constantine, the Roman emperor, becomes a Christian himself and decriminalizes Christianity in the nation. So in fact, what this challenge raises is an excellent point about good reasons why we should trust the resurrection happened. And that is that if it did happen, you'd expect tons of people, in fact, even people who had a bias against Christianity, to be completely converted. And that's precisely what happened. And that's, in fact, good reason why we should trust the resurrection did happen. Now, did everyone convert? Well, no, not everybody converted, but that's not surprising at all. In fact, even in Jesus' day, before his death and resurrection, Jesus performed many miracles in the presence of lots of people. He raised the dead, he healed the sick, he made the lame walk, the blind could see. And yet, despite these powerful supernatural evidences, people still rejected Jesus. And the reason is because oftentimes belief in Jesus isn't simply a matter of what does the evidence say, because oftentimes belief in Jesus, well, I shouldn't say oftentimes, the reality is that belief in Jesus requires a complete submission of the heart to Jesus. In fact, I remember one time talking to a person who was telling me that they were willing to consider the claims of Christ. And so we actually went through an apologetics textbook. I think it was Scaling the Secular City. So this is a few years back by J.P. Moreland. And we went through this textbook, and we went through each chapter for over about a period of about a month. And after a month, this girl said to me, you know what? The evidences for Christianity are completely compelling. I'm completely persuaded that probably Christianity is true. But she said, I don't want to become a Christian. And I was surprised at the time. I was like, well, why not? How could you say that? She says, because I don't want to have to live according to the commands of Christ. I want to live how I want to live. And I remember at the time, she was in college. She was engaged in all sorts of activity that we would probably say is unbecoming of a Christian. And so for her, it was an attitude of the heart. She didn't want to submit to Jesus Christ and to his demands on her life. And that's why many times you might have powerful evidences as to why Christianity is true, but people may still reject to want to follow Jesus Christ. So if the resurrection actually happened, would that change lives? Absolutely. In fact, it changed lots of lives, hundreds and thousands of people who became followers of Jesus. But sometimes some evidence, despite how powerful it is, isn't going to change a hardened heart because that person isn't willing to submit their lives to Jesus.